It's been more than 2 decades since the North American Free Trade Agreement was signed by Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. Right from the start, it was controversial, and that hasn't changed over the years. A new poll finds 26% of Canadians say it's actually hurt Canada. That survey was conducted by the Angus Reid Institute. For a look behind the numbers, let's go to Shachi Kurl. She is the executive director of the Angus Reid Institute. She is in our Vancouver studio. I'm just tongue-tied. I've been on the air for many hours now. So just let me ask you, sorry about that. First of all, I want to know, did you do this poll before the Brexit referendum?
We did, and not to worry, Andrew, you're a hardworking guy. We did conduct the poll in the days before the Brexit referendum, really with an eye to this week and the North American Leaders Summit. But of course, the result of the Brexit vote, or the Brexit itself, or the impending one, has certainly put a certain focus and a microscope on these results in a way certainly that I could not have predicted a few weeks ago.
So how do Canadians feel about NAFTA?
Well, you know, you're going to see this week the three North American leaders sort of hand in hand, arm in arm, these three amigos. But when it comes to NAFTA, Canadians are not exactly embracing this. There's 1/4 that say that it's hurt Canada. In fact, if you look at the results in totality, only 1 in 4 say that it's been of benefit to the country. The rest either don't know what to think or say it's had no impact at all. So this stands in contrast to a generally pro-trade tilt from Canadians when it comes to trade agreements. They've been cautiously embracing the Trans-Pacific Partnership. They've been moderately and mostly supportive of the Canada-EU trade agreement. But when it comes to NAFTA, maybe because it's so close to home, it's something that they've been quite ambivalent and skeptical about, even 2 decades after the fact.
And has that ambivalence and that skepticism grown over time, or how has that changed?
You know, there has always been a strong desire within a segment of the population to see negotiations reopened for better terms. And when we put the question to Canadians, what should happen with NAFTA this time around? Should it be left as is? Should it be strengthened and expanded? Or should it be renegotiated or scrapped altogether? The most common answer, about 1/3 of Canadians are saying, you know what, we want to see renegotiated terms for this deal. And that is particularly prevalent, Andrew, among older voters, among Canadians aged 55 plus. And if you look at voting patterns, to bring it back to Brexit, of Britishers who chose to leave versus remain, again, it was older Britons who chose to leave. And so I don't know if this is a demographic tilt that we're seeing, or this is simply the fact that older Canadians remember what some of the immediate fallout of NAFTA was in its early days compared to younger Canadians who have grown up with this and who may simply not have it at the top of their minds.
Let me ask you, and I don't know how far you drilled down, but I'm wondering, is some of the concern over NAFTA, does it have to do with Canadian attitudes towards the United States or towards Mexico, or both?
You know, it is driven by some of that. So we did ask about people's attitudes towards both countries. And unsurprisingly, the better you feel about Mexico, the better you feel about the United States, the more inclined you are to say that NAFTA has been good for this country. Conversely, if you have negative views, it's driven some of that. But really, I think what's at play here is general economic anxiety at the household level of Canadians. And certainly when it comes to trade, Canadians always say that there are potential benefits for consumers in terms of new markets, cheaper goods, better goods, more variety, certainly in terms of the amount of export and macroeconomic gains. But there's always concern and there's always anxiety around jobs. Is this going to impact my sector, my industry, the job that I do, if we see a loosening of regulations between countries? That might be at play. One important thing to remember, though, Andrew, is if you think about trade as a drawbridge, it's not as though Canadians want to blow up that bridge or even pull it up, but they are questioning some of the benefits of that increased flow in traffic back and forth across that bridge.
And in fact, only 9% of Canadians would want to leave NAFTA, right?
That's right. So there is still some appetite for cooperation on both economic and diplomatic fronts.
Okay.
Quite a bit of appetite.
I want to ask you, Shachi, because I know you probably don't like this question, but if you try and think about Brexit and the turmoil that's going to happen over the months to come, you think about Donald Trump, who says that he doesn't like NAFTA. How do you think that could, mold Canadian opinions over the months to come?
Oh, I don't like that question. Look, the thing is that Canadians are all already very decided in terms of their dislike of Donald Trump and their general anxiety towards the presumptive presidential nominee for the Republican National Congress. But, what's important here is to remember that both presidential nominees, both Hillary Clinton, presumptive ones, and Donald Trump are actually rattling more protectionist sabers on the trade front. And so, while Canadians may have this view that Hillary Clinton will be a far better president, it's certainly a view held by many around the world, not everyone, but by many. It doesn't necessarily mean that a continued democratic existence at the White House is suddenly going to be good for Canada when we're in tough around renegotiating the softwood lumber dispute or pushing for better terms on NAFTA or other trade deals.
Shachi, great to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Shachi Kurl is the executive director of the Angus Reid Institute. It's not a complicated name, it really isn't. She was in our Vancouver studio.